Heavenly Father, we do have a small crowd tonight. Wish it was bigger. I feel like I have some important information to pass on to everybody, but this is recorded, and people will be able to watch us afterwards anyway, so we're good. Lord, be with us as we talk politics, maybe even some religion, and help us to all understand more about what's going on in this world and what our titles and our jobs are, and that is to be teachers and inform other people as to what is going on also. Ask that you would be with us this evening as we talk about the UN and some of the plans that they have, and just bring us into your providence and have us do your will, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
Yes. I do. She was rattling off a whole bunch of stuff when I was really in the middle of trying to get some things done at the office, and I said, just show up, I'll give you 10-15 minutes for you to explain to the crowd what you're up to. And I think it had something to do with a blood transfusion that Pastor Ed had in his surgery that he had. By the way, I spoke to Susan twice today. Ed is up, he's walking, he's actually 8, he's taking water, so he's doing pretty good. Jack, he's on his second surgery and he's in recovery. Yeah, so his time was just a little bit tougher than what Pastor Ed went through, but it looks to me like Susan is telling me that they're going to discharge him from the hospital Thursday. Yeah, that's a good thing. So what I am going to speak to you about tonight, and I really detest anybody reading from just reading a presentation, but there is so much here. And actually the article is UN Blueprint for Global Control. Okay, why would I want to bring that up? But we've got Trump and his cabinet coming into office in January. And we've got a UN that has organized very well, and they put together a lot of things that they want to accomplish. And this is not going to parallel what Trump wants to accomplish. We do have a Congress, we have an executive branch, which is the presidency and the cabinet, and we do have 3 people elected to Congress that we're going to have to get on them to assist Trump in getting accomplished what he wants to, because actually what Trump wants to accomplish is really contrary to the UN agenda. There's no parallel, none whatsoever. United Nations, governments and dictators from around the world gathered in New York City for the UN Summit of the Future on September 22nd of 2024. And adopted a sprawling agreement to expand and further empower the United Nations. The controversial declaration approved by the UN General Assembly, known as the Pact for Future, is seen by the UN and its member governments as a great leap forward for the cause of globalism. We have a republic here. We have a constitution that was written by our founding fathers. It has nothing to do with globalism. Has nothing to do with it. So, tell me your name.
Sue Cosgrove.
Sue Cosgrove? Okay. Sue's going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to let her get started, and then I'll finish. You're going to talk a whole lot about blood donating, right? Okay.
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Okay. Got my notes here. If
I can see them. Okay.
All right, go on up there.
All right. I didn't even know there was a problem until about 2 weeks ago. I had a dear friend of mine, well, not really a dear friend, but anyway, I had a friend of mine that we were talking, I had a friend of mine, we were talking, and he said, you know, Sue, I know you're not vaccinated. I have to have surgery week after next, which was last Friday. Would you consider donating blood to me? And I said, oh, of course. And so I immediately, because I'm a teacher, I had to do my due diligence. I started calling, found out Wyoming does not have the Red Cross. All blood in Wyoming is handled through a company called Vitalant. Okay, on their website it says you can donate to yourself, you can directly donate to another person. So I called them and I'm like, oh, what is the process? Because he needed the blood last Friday and this was like 2 weeks out. So she said, well, okay, your doctor will have to prescribe the blood, and then that'll take us a couple of weeks to process that paperwork. Then you'll have to fill out paperwork, and that'll take a couple of 2 weeks. Then you'll have to go over to Rapid to donate, and then you or the person you're donating to will have to pay the $500 fee. I was like, what? And so I was not happy about that, and so I said, what about donating to yourself? And because when I was a kid, the lady down the street had to have major back surgery. So for like a year, she would go in once a month or something and do a pint of blood so that when she had her surgery, she would be okay. Well, if you donate blood to yourself, it isn't even mathematically possible, because like you can't give blood within 90 days of a surgery, but your blood's only good for 42 days. So I went down this rabbit hole. Like I said, I'm not vaccinated, and like about a year and a half ago, I was watching a podcast and I heard about this thing called Pure Blood Registry. Okay, you can go to their website. There's like, you can sign up to be a donor for free, but to use the service, there's like a fee, monthly fee or whatever. So I had put my name on that list because I would be happy to donate to anybody that needed my blood that I matched, because I'm not, and so vaccinated. So I reached out to them about this process, and the man that started that organization, his name is Gil Levy, he said, I can get your friend blood. He goes, I've got people all over the country that would match. Come to find out, actually we didn't match, so I couldn't have helped him. But okay, so he was going to be able to match with him, okay, and get him blood. Have it sent from other states where it would match. Oh, but the thing is, his doctor had to write the prescription to be able to put this in the works. Oh, Greg's doctor found that too burdensome to fill out that paperwork, and so he couldn't help him anyway. All right, so needless to say, this rabbit hole has taught me, in the state of Wyoming, we do not have the right by law to self-donate or to direct donate to a loved one. Okay, now last year some legislation it didn't make it out of committee, but they were trying to get the blood labeled vaccinated or unvaccinated. Okay, the thing is, when I started down this rabbit hole and I talked to Gil, he hooked me up with this lady who has a thing called Impact Reconciliation. It is another similar blood organization started by a labor and delivery nurse that wants to connect people up and be able to direct donate. Even if you're vaccinated and you don't care about that issue, the thing is, blood banks in the United States, 80% of the world's blood plasma comes out of the United States because we're the only country that will pay for you to donate blood. So the thing is, most of the plasma donation centers are in lower socioeconomic areas, and a lot of the United States allows people to give plasma twice a week. So, I mean, if you look at the health of an individual that's doing that as their income, possibly for drugs, then do you want to receive their blood? I mean, that's what our supplies got in it. Okay, so if you have the right to direct donation, then if you have a surgery or heaven forbid you need blood, that gives you the ability to go to your friends, your loved ones, your co-workers that you are with all day, every day, and you know they're healthy, and see if you have a match. And between these two organizations, the Pure Blood Registry and the, I just met her, so her Impact Reconciliation, but her organization will connect with you, and she teaches you how to not need a blood donation, because there's things that can be done. Our hospital offers a thing called Cell Saver, but you have to set it up before you have surgery, where they capture your blood that you're losing, somehow they process it and put it back in, and it makes it where you don't need a donation necessarily. So, but the thing is, in our state, we need the right to direct donation. I mean, think about it. If someone like Pure Blood Registry started a registry locally here in Gillette, I mean, I know it myself. If I got called at 3 o'clock in the morning and it was one of my students, if it was one of you, and they said, hey, Sue, can you come to the hospital? It's 3 a.m., but we need your blood, you match. I would go. I don't care if I know you or not. You know, I would give to you. And so, funny, I just came from physical therapy, and the lady that was working on me used to work at the hospital. She says our hospital already kind of does that, or they used to. Like if somebody got brought in the ambulance and they really needed blood, they knew what all of the hospital workers' type was, and they would start pulling them to come down and donate. So it can be done. The blood bank sells their products. They don't want to make it easy for us. It cuts into their bottom line if they have to label it vaxxed or unvaxxed, or if they have to determine that your blood has to go to you. That costs them money, not $500, I don't believe. But and then another risk that I just saw yesterday, hackers are supposedly breaking into the blood bank systems and causing a shortage of blood. They're messing with the software. So who's to say if it's labeled vaxxed or unvaxxed, if it really is, if they're having cyber attacks that they're not telling us about. So, I mean, both bills are supposed to go to the floor. The one where we will have the lawful right to get the blood from whoever we want, and they'll have one where they're labeling it. And I mean, if you're looking for an economic thing about this, the lady with Impact Reconciliation, she got it passed in Kentucky. Kentucky is now becoming a medical tourism location because you have the right there. So people, especially she said from Canada, they obtain the blood they want and then they come there to get their surgeries done because they know they'll have the right to that. And so I know Ed Sitzy received blood, I believe it was yesterday morning. I got a call from Susan Bennett that said, can you connect them up? And I was like, yes, but then when we texted, she's like, no, he already got it. And so, I mean, just so you know, blood consists of, you can give a whole blood donation or you can give like a plasma donation. But the blood it has red blood cells, it has white blood cells, platelets, and then it has the plasma. So each unit of blood is divided into 3. The blood banks make all the money off of the plasma. And so, but, you know, I mean, I just keep thinking of my kids. If you know, I've got a 20-year-old that was wanting to borrow my car tonight, I think to drive to Casper to pick up a go-kart. I said no, but, you know, I mean, what happens if I get the call at 3 o'clock in the morning and I need something? All our blood comes from Rapid. We don't keep it, I mean, well, okay, they keep it at the hospital, but they get it through Vitalent and it's coming from another state. The only way you donate here is like if they have a blood drive. So, you know, we don't have, I mean, we live in a state where if you get seriously injured, they fly you somewhere. I mean, we're small. We know each other. What a perfect place that we wouldn't even be able to be there for each other, but we don't have the right now. So, yes, sir.
You're talking about introduction of legislation, is that on the state level in Wyoming?
Yes.
Okay.
Sarah Penn was the representative that tried to introduce the labeling of the blood last session. Okay, and apparently she was not voted back in. And so, according to her husband through Facebook, I think his name is Guggen something, G-U-G-G, I don't know, but he is going to sponsor the right to, like, our right to blood, and then somebody else was sponsoring the bill for the labeling of the blood. And I mean, I put out all kinds of messages yesterday. I'm hoping to meet with Abby Angelos next week. I was hoping to meet with John Bear. I mean, anybody that you know, please let them know. And I was going to do a change.org petition, but the lady that, her name is Sierra, that I've been talking to with the Impact Reconciliation, she's like, those things are too easy. She said, because people get on and sign, but our legislators don't do anything unless they're staring you in the face. She said, if you could get people, what I would like to do, don't they do like meetings throughout the state for different bills?
Well,
Like maybe if they discuss the bill here.
right. What I was going to say is, we try to have certain legislators come to these meetings once a month, and they can discuss those issues, but they have different venues and they also have committees that they talk to also outside of regular session, that they can help each other sponsor bills and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I put a post on Facebook and I got 3 brand new legislators that wanted to know what I knew, and they're very excited about it and they want to help us. And so, but the lady from Kentucky said it's the blood banks not wanting to give up their money and not wanting to spend money because this cuts into their bottom line. You know, they have to set it apart because you wanted it, and they have to label it special, and they have to deliver it or whatever, and they can't just put it in the pool of what's sent to Europe. And so they're gonna fight us on it, but yeah.
I was under the impression that if you took the jab, that you were able to donate blood, but I guess that's not true.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but no, they do not. They may ask you, but
because if I had surgery, I would want untainted. I mean, I wasn't a sheeple. I didn't take it, and I wouldn't want that blood, in me. I mean, so that's crazy that you can't even.
It's all in the same pool.
Wow.
And the lady I keep referring to with this Impact Reconciliation, she is a labor and delivery nurse that specializes in premature babies. Premature babies receive huge amounts of blood transfusions. Do you really think a premature baby needs to be vaccinated? Like, so yes, sir.
I was in Canada when AIDS first broke out. And I remember the homosexuals there that had AIDS were intentionally giving blood and claiming that they were clean in order to increase the investment and the activity and trying to find a solution to AIDS. Is there any kind of screening for the vaccine? Or, I mean, even if you get rid of the hackers and stuff?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that too, but they just lifted what they put into place when that happened, because the LGBTQ community has fought against it, finding it discriminatory that they could ask. Now they have to ask everybody the same questions, and they cannot pull the blood because of that.
No, they were asking, but these infected people were saying, no, we're clean. So unless there's a test, unless there's a screening test to physically, technically, medically prove that it is there or not, it doesn't matter what you ask them. And even if you prove afterwards that that wasn't the case, that they lied, all they have to say is, well, we didn't know.
Well, they just now lifted, they had certain processes that they did after that happened, because several people died from tainted blood back in the early 80s, and Australia lost several hundred people. Same thing, so they put these restrictions in place that they just lifted about a year ago. And so, and maybe, I mean, even if you're not looking at the person's lifestyle that way, I mean, the thing is, they allow you to give, you're allowed to donate plasma twice a week. Well, the people doing it are, well, okay, a large amount of the people doing that are doing it to pay for their drugs. I watched a documentary yesterday where the drug dealers have gotten so smart, like they give you a debit card that they pay you for your blood. Okay, the drug dealers have you give them your debit card, and then they're more than happy to drive you to the donation center, and that automatically loads on the card that then they for sure are going to get paid because they hold the card. And that all blood isn't the same. I mean, I want to be able to go to, like, I mean, maybe my relatives that are in their 20s or their 30s and they're healthy and they eat well and stuff like that. I would rather get my blood by asking them in person and asking them to donate than the possibility of somebody that's donating 2 or 3 times a week to pay for their heroin and they lying. The plasma place, I watched a documentary yesterday. Okay, so the plasma places, they don't even employ people to ask the questions anymore. You sit in front of a screen and answer your questions, and then they take you back in this huge room of hundreds of people donating. It's like a factory. And so, I mean, now those are the plasma centers that are for profit, but, you know, I mean, but, yes ma'am.
Well, I've donated several times for Vitality here. I can't anymore because I'm on a drug that they won't take it. But I do not recall them ever asking me if I had the COVID vaccine. And I can't tell you how many times I have donated right here in Gillette for Vitality from Rapid City.
Well, several people on my Facebook post said, well, they asked me, didn't they do something about it or with it? And no, they don't. I mean, the person I was trying to donate for, he told me a really sad story. They had a blood drive where he works, and several people that he knew were vaxxed donated and were kind of bragging about it. And then there was a young girl that was like 19 there that was anemic, and she had told my friend, she's like, oh yeah, you know, I didn't get the vax. I mean, it could cause me not to have kids and stuff. And he goes, you realize the donation, the blood you're getting because you're anemic is vaccinated. And she was very upset. He said she was crying. And I mean, I don't blame her, you know. I mean, my kids are not, and I'm not. And, you know, I mean, that's why I thought when I joined that registry, in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, I'm safe. You know, if I ever need a blood transfusion, I'll call them. They'll somehow magically get me unvaccinated blood, and I'll be all good. But then you find out it isn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. They put all this paperwork in the way, but they do have the ability to type and match faster. Because, I mean, the lady that just worked on me, she said they can type and match an employee to help somebody that just came in from the ambulance. Within the hour, they can know if they can give them that blood. They have the capacity.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that
Appreciate that.
information. Perhaps one legislature will get something done with this coming up. Yes, sir.
Well, this just came out today. The Labor, Health, and Social Services Committee, person that's over that committee is Rachel Rodriguez-Williams. And she's,
For the state of Wyoming?
yeah.
She's
over
elected
that committee.
official?
And then locally, King Clausen is on that, which I don't know how much help he'll be. But Anyway, I guess I answered my question.
Well, for those of you that have him as a representative, spend some time contacting him, give him some pressure. He does have a voting record of voting with the Democrats, so I don't know if that makes a difference in this situation or not.
Well, I would say this Rachel Rodriguez Williams, looking at her track record, she would be sitting here if she was in town, so.
Okay, yeah. So where I left off, when you came in, I started talking about the UN Pact for the Future. And this was in September. September 22 is when they had this UN conference. Let's see, where did I leave off here?
Who wrote the article?
It was by the New American, Alex Newman. You know Alex Newman with the New American?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what's nice about the New American, you can read their articles and have complete confidence that all of this stuff has been fact-checked and it's 100% accurate. They started writing the magazine or publications in 1958, and during that time until present, they've had one retraction. That's it. They're slow to publish, but it's accurate. So I spent a lot of time reading the New American, and I saw this as a decent article because we've got the Trump administration coming in, and I am really curious as to how Donald Trump and his cabinet is going to handle this stuff. And some of this stuff that unfortunately I'm going to read to you because there's a lot of it here, and I want to cover it the way Alex Newman put it together. Let's see, legal experts are sounding the alarm about its significance, with one leading international law professor warning of an effort to create a totalitarian worldwide police state. And opposition is growing quickly. The shortest way to summarize the goal of the scheme is designed to transform the UN into UN 2.0. As top leaders of the organization put it, whereas once the UN was supposed to be merely about keeping peace among nations, at least that is how it was marketed to humanity. The Pact for the Future and as associated UN agreements make clear that the organization now has far grander ambitions from education, health, and the environment. So, the economy and even emergency management, yes. The UN wants a much larger role. In the United States, at least, lawmakers, governors, and grassroots leaders are growing increasingly restless about what they perceive as historic power grab. However, as the New American questioned attendees at the UN summit, it was clear that many of them were on the edge as Donald Trump, a historic and self-proclaimed nemesis of globalism, he is not in favor of it. So we don't know what direction this is all going to go. Is going to be opposing him every time he turns around, because they want a one world government. That's what they want. Council of Foreign Relations, that's where that all came from. There's another excerpt in this document. The founder, the guy that actually put together the UN, was actually at that time, it was talking about world peace, but that wasn't his objective. His objective was world order, one world power. That was his objective. And by the way, he was a congressional elected official that started the UN. This has deep roots, people. Yes, sir.
Are you talking about Alger Hiss, Harry Dexter White, etc.?
Say that name again?
Alger Hiss,
Yes.
Dexter White,
Mm-hmm.
it's two of them. There were
There's
two
t-
others.
Two of them, yeah. I was looking for the name and I lost it here, but, okay, so there was two of them. But this has deep roots
Yeah.
in the Council of Foreign Relations. Among the many proposals aimed at centralizing power and facilitating action is a vow in the pact to reform the powerful UN Secretary Council, the body which has 5 veto-yielding permanent members include the United States, including the United States, purports to have the authority to make binding decisions, including the development of military peace forces. Eventually, the goal is to eliminate the veto power of the permanent members while adding new members, including governments from Africa, Latin America, and Asia.
We should just withdraw, keep our money.
But if Trump has his way, he's going to kick the UN out of New York.
Yes.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it does. And this is something that really needs to happen. And of course, the news media, including Fox News, is not reporting this stuff.
No,
They just don't do it.
because the news media is on Democratic side on their money.
Yeah, and you can follow the money on this also when it comes to
The
the UN.
Mockingbird media,
Yep.
Yeah,
Operation Mockingbird.
right. And as I said earlier, we have more followers than we have leaders out there.
This is true.
That is true. The final agreement adopted at the summit of the future formalizes the push for more global governance with the backing of virtually every nation government in the dictatorship world, not the free world, people,
Right.
the dictatorship world. That's what's behind the UN.
And you know, you were talking about this article, and I don't know how many people actually check out, and it's on satellite radio and also on the Calvary Community Church 91.9 station, is Olive Tree Ministry. She goes in, she talks a lot about this exact very thing,
Yeah, we heard.
which is very good ministry,
Yeah.
but Olive Tree Ministry, yeah, very good.
You were going to say something.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but the UN Sustainable Development Goals,
Yeah.
if you Google that, it's all over. It's driving our education system. It drove the ESG scores for corporations. It's driving all the climate stuff. And I think one of them is the right to migration or something. It's driving that.
Well,
They actually have a goal in Agenda 2030. That's the
it
UN.
addresses that in this article, it actually addresses that.
The Great Reset.
2030.
Yep.
But also, and everybody knows what Gillette's doing for land management, land property planning in this community. Green areas, commercial areas. And there's a business in town that's setting up stores along with all of this Agenda 2030.
Oh, no. That's smart cities.
Smart cities, that's where
Yeah,
this all comes
15-minute
from.
cities, smart
Heidi
smart
Gross
cities.
already looked into mass transit, but she found out that we were too small here in Gillette to get mass transit.
Yeah,
So there's a few of them on that city council.
yeah, they've also addressed that issue with mass transit. I don't know what the population of a community has to be to have mass transit. I'm not sure that a city the size of Sioux Falls, South Dakota is large enough for mass transit.
You don't want it, trust me.
Even
You don't
in
want
large
it.
cities.
You will have what they do where we moved from Oregon. Lane Mass Transit District has a tax. So if you're a business owner, like yourself, you will pay X amount of dollars even though you never ride that bus.
Mhm.
And you will have to
Yeah.
pay it. You will pay it, and it doesn't matter, and I think it goes off employees also, how many
Well,
employees you have.
The UN also has a
It's a payroll
plan
tax is what it is.
to for a world tax on people that have not a high income, but a high net wealth. So what kind of people would that affect in this country? Having a high net wealth but a low annual income? What kind of business owners?
Retired.
Well, older people.
Agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
just
you
gonna
got
say-
ranchers around here that
Oh, yeah.
own $10 million ranches, but they don't make the money. But they're going to be taxed on their net wealth
Yeah.
if the UN has their say in it. You know what that does? It makes the people that have not high net worths pay taxes on their net worth, and they don't have the cash flow to pay the taxes. So what happens? They lose their property because they can't pay the taxes. This is all orchestrated.
Very much
So that way you don't actually own property, you rent property.
We have the right to pay property taxes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
What is
Well, you
that
guys
say?
know that we showed up, Gillette showed up on the smart cities list.
Yes.
And
That's crazy.
the city, oh, it was just a typo. How does somebody in Switzerland accidentally figure out Gillette, Wyoming, 35,000 people, accidentally end up on the list?
We're on the list because the city council has been talked to by non-government organizations, GMOs. That comes directly from the UN.
And you do realize that the UN and their economic forum meet in Jackson once a year.
Yep.
So we've got
Sure
these
do.
people in our backyard, and they must be bringing our officials over there and whining and dining them to get this stuff done.
Instead of planning and scheming how to take properties away from high net property owners that may not be able to afford to pay the taxes on a tax like that, what they should have done is what the state of North Dakota and Illinois did back in the late 1800s. They sued the federal government and they were able to take possession of federal grounds. Illinois and North Dakota have the least amount of government lands in their states. Yes, sir.
About Gillette ending up on that list, it makes perfect sense if you think that if the major objective of the UN, if one of them is environmentalism, and Gillette, the Powder River Basin, is the energy capital of the United States, they would have to wipe that out, and it would get a lot of visibility, so they've got to start working on it now.
Yep.
They absolutely do, but you know, Donald Trump is talking about drill, baby, drill. Okay, so how does that affect oil prices? I have a son-in-law that's a petroleum engineer working for a drilling company. And I said, does that concern your company about going out there and drilling massive amounts of oil wells? And he said, no, we're kind of looking forward to it. But I said, it's going to drive the cost of energy down and you're not going to make any money. And he said, oh no, Trump is going to export that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, what?
We use it when it's cheap.
We use it when it's cheap,
Yeah,
yeah, but we're also going to export it.
yeah.
There's a coal mine in Colombia, Drummond operates it. They were here in the basin. I think they were operating the Bel Air and Eagle Butte mines for a while. They're shipping all of their coal to Germany now. And it's sold 1 to 2 times before it even gets across the Atlantic to a higher bidder.
Wow.
And we can be doing the same thing. Coal is not dead, people. It's
No.
not dead. Germany did something different than the United States has done. For those coal-powered plants that we shut down, we tore them down. Germany didn't. They mothballed them. They're actually overhauling them and getting them going again. They're a little bit smarter than we.
Yeah, but at one time though, they were tearing them down and
They were.
They were joining that green,
Yeah.
you know, and they were just that, but
Mhm.
they totally said, no, we can't do this. The people are gonna starve, the people are gonna be hungry, and
Right,
so they totally twisted
they
and
did.
changed.
But now the ones they didn't tear down, they're actually renovating and getting them started again. I have a daughter-in-law that was born and raised in Germany. Her parents live in Germany. And she said, it's amazing in Germany because energy costs what firewood goes for. Do we want to be in that position? Do we want to be a part of the UN and just simply just tear things down?
We don't have trees.
We don't have trees. Germany has trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just the idea of running these people out of energy sources. But the UN wants total control. But if you look at land use, and this article covers that also, land use for this area, right here where we're living, you can talk about what the city's got planned for land use around here, but if you look at the 2030 UN plan, this is actually wilderness. We're going to be living in 400 square foot units in Denver. This is not planned for people to be living here.
No, because they want you to live in a 400 square feet in China, all piled up on top of each other, or in smart cities.
So
15-minute cities.
it's very imperative that we, anytime, and I actually do a lot of this in my office. When people come through my office, I talk to them about smart cities, city of Gillette, the county, the state. It's very imperative that we talk to our lawmakers on a local and state and federal level also about this stuff. And of course, they will roll their eyes and go, yeah, all right, I've heard this before. But there's going to, yes.
Keep in mind that debacle with Germany was the direct result of the Ukraine and the sanctions on Russian oil and all this other stuff. You get rid of that, and all of a sudden you got a pretty powerful argument for getting rid of coal and oil and everything
Right.
else.
And we need to focus on the fact that when our Constitution was written, our founding fathers enumerated, defined the powers of the federal government. They're defined. Anything else not mentioned in the Constitution as powers of the federal government are left up to the states. And a lot of the topics that I'm talking about right now, this is states' rights. What we're going to do with our lands, what we're going to do with our energy sources, what we're going to do with our agriculture. And I like the idea that Trump is considering changing the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Education, because as I mentioned in this article, the UN wants to control our climate. They want to control our education. They want to control our commerce. And keep in mind, we have the power as separate states to control it ourselves. When we get as we are getting our government officials in line and understanding the rights of the people and not the federal government, we have a federal government that was set up under the Constitution for the individual up. That gives us rights as individuals. We still have the same Constitution, but somehow we've got a federal government that's running us. Same Constitution, we just need to stand up for our rights. And that comes back to quarter two, and I thought about this for the last couple of weeks. You people have done an incredible job getting individuals elected, locally, county. We've got work to do. And in a state basis also, in lawmakers. And there's a lot of people that are sincere, like Jack Clary is an example. And John Baer and Troy McEwen and others that are going to be doing a great job running our government. But it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you people that come to these meetings for the last 10 years. It wouldn't have happened. So you've done some big things, but we've got some more big things to do yet. But we're going to get this straightened out, and people are becoming more educated as we go into the future. And we spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong with the government, but I was actually driving around on Saturday in town doing some errands, and I got to thinking about this, driving around it. I moved here in 1973. You know, this town's come a long ways. You drive around and look at our streets, and this town had very few trees when I moved here. We have a lot of trees now. And we have a lot of businesses that have built nice buildings. And we've got retail stores, and boy, do we have a lot of Mexican restaurants, I'll tell you what.
Mexican food is good.
It is. Yeah, we lost Applebee's, but I never ate there anyway. So
It wasn't
a
that
big deal.
great.
Wasn't that great?
It wasn't that good.
Oh, okay. But the town, if you look around at what we've got going on in this town, we're very fortunate to have the infrastructure that we do have here. We have things like, what is that? L&H Welding. Started out in Gillette, Wyoming in the 1960s. It's worldwide now, and they originated here, people.
Wow.
That is cool,
That's
isn't it?
pretty cool.
Yeah, in Gillette, Wyoming, yeah. And the thing of it is we also had, when I moved here in 1973, we had some rough cut coyotes that were, I guess the best thing you can define them as is crooks. And a lot of those people are deceased now, but they had the wherewith to settle this country because it took people like that to do it. And they were the bosses, and they were untouchable, except we don't really need that kind of leadership anymore, but they're the ones that paved the path for what we're building now. So I go back to, we're very fortunate in this community, we've got a lot to build on, and we've got a lot to think about going into the future and the type of people that are going to be running for office and running these communities and throughout the state. But education is going to be the key. As I mentioned earlier, I spend a lot of time in my office talking about Christ to people and about business and about the Constitution and how it works and how it's panning out and working in Wyoming. Because we have states' rights in Wyoming, and we've got some lawmakers that are starting to realize that very thing. So it's working.
We're starting to see the fruit.
We're starting to see the fruit of it. We are. Yeah, and it's not over yet. And with this new administration coming in, I think it just might blow our minds in the next 4 years.
I don't think I'm going to get tired of all the winning.
You don't think you're going to get tired of all
but I
the
don't
winning?
think I will.
Yeah.
I don't think I will.
I'm enjoying the heck out of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some winning.
So have you noticed that there's been a tone in the news media, even on the left? There's been a tone change. At first they were crying because they lost and blaming everybody else for the losses. But that tone is actually decreasing as they're realizing that the Trump administration is going to be doing things. And everybody's going to be a winner, not just the conservatives, but the liberals are also going to be winners in this thing because we're going to see an economy that's going to blossom from this. And a lot of world leaders right now are actually talking to Trump. The Prime Minister of Canada flew to Florida to visit with Trump, and he's not even in office yet.
Right.
It's gonna be the first 51st state, right? Canada?
Canada. I think he mentioned something like that. Yeah.
They can apply. I don't know if they'll accept them, though.
Oh, that's funny.
They may not be
Yeah.
up to it.
And there's actually, yes,
Just
sir.
think if that's the case, then we
Remember
won't
when we
need
thought
passports
ISIS
anymore
was
like it was 30 years ago.
We what?
Remember when we thought ISIS was defeated?
Yeah,
Right. They're the
Never
JV
mind.
team.
yeah, that's right, because they can spring up any time. They can.
Let me
Yeah.
add to that. I've read the documentation. ISIS was formed up and financed by the CIA.
I wouldn't doubt it, because
CIA is more or less subservient
war-
to the CFR.
war is actually, it fuels economies. Yeah, and I think you mentioned both sides.
When all else fails, they take us to war.
Yeah.
The military industrial complex.
What you mentioned about that, if you guys want a fun thing, look up Operation Gladio. Operation Gladio is what they've done to overthrow the different governments and the different things. It goes way back, it'll blow your mind. There's like, if you watch Rumble, which is all I watch, you want to watch And We Know, great show, Badlands Media, there's one, and there's an Alpha Warrior show on Badlands Media that gets into Operation Gladio. It goes way back.
That's where George Soros ended up making a lot of his money, bankrupting a lot of these other countries, where some of them, if he steps in and they're back in that country, they will be arrested.
Yeah, but we've been overthrowing governments like apparently all the way back. It's just, it's mind.
Soros never crossed his own people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that dates back a long ways. I don't understand myself how a person can be that way for absolute power, because we all die someday. You don't take it with you,
But his son is just as bad as he is.
and I'm not aware too much about his son. So that's what I wanted to visit with you about is the UN. This is what's driving a lot of the stuff that's happening in the world, is the UN. By the way, that when the Israelis, what was that, October of 23, when they were attacked by Palestinians?
Yes.
I read an article in the New American, and they pointed it out that after that was over, and I think it was in December of 23, the New American ran an article, there were UN employees who actually were behind that attack to the Israelis. They were actually behind it. And they're not wrong. They don't publish retractions. So, anyway, thank you for listening to me tonight. I hope I brought you some information.